Hi, I am going to be talking about the Beatles. I knew of the Beatles ever since I was about maybe almost 1 years old. They were a group back when I was that age. I was born in 1965, so the Beatles were a group that were in my day back in the 60s, like it would be comparable to how people now like the group Kiss, except back then there were no internet groups or things where people could communicate daily with each other about groups. But it was still like a tidal wave of people talking about groups. And so you could walk down the street and ask someone what they thought of the Beatles, and they'd tell you. It was still a very vibrant and very fan-based time. It was done differently because this was way back before public internet became something that we were all aware of. But then the Beatles broke up. And I remember the day when my sister specifically came when I was in first grade to tell me. She came to the classroom where I was coming out to get my ride, and she was very straight-faced and said, "I have very bad news." And I said, "What?" And she said, "The Beatles broke up." And when she said it, I wasn't happy, but it wasn't totally unexpected because I remember there were news stories about how some of the members were not getting along. It was public knowledge back then that they were fighting. And people were hoping that the fights would stop. But they didn't. And it came to where they broke up. So at that time, it really was an intense, major story. And it was like, well, okay, how do we get on now? We had the Beatles as our group that we love. What do we do? And, well, there was also the Rolling Stones, who I also really enjoyed, and who I think are still a band that's still active. But anyway, the stuff that I heard from the Beatles back when I grew up, I was into albums like Revolver. That was one of my favorites. And I wasn't as much into Sgt. Pepper. Now, listening to the remaster and remix, I like it a lot more. But back when I heard it, and I didn't really hear it back in the day, I heard it later, when I was maybe a teenager, I I thought that it wasn't quite the stuff that I was into. The stuff that I really liked, that was one of my favorite compilations, was rock and roll music. I think that it might have first come out as two separate volumes in single albums, and then later became a double album. I don't know if that's true. It might have been the opposite. It might have first been a double album and then became a single album. But I had the one with the jukebox and the Coca-Cola cover, and the mixes on those songs. I played that a lot. Maybe side two. No, I mean maybe side four. I forget which side. It might have been side three, I don't know, but one of the sides I might not have played as much because some of the songs were a little bit more country oriented or a little bit less totally dance worthy to me. But I still heard the whole album often, and especially side one and two. I am surprised I didn't wear the album out. But anyway, the Beatles, if anyone wants to question the idea that they were not anyone's first favorite band, well, I have to tell you, they were my first favorite band. And even when I composed music, I had the Beatles complete songbook, and I played for a few hours every day songs from that songbook. And I got my rhythmic sense and my piano style partly from that. Partly from other things too, but the Beatles were a good part of my piano style. Even though I wrote songs before I did piano, but when I specifically did piano, a good deal of my influence was the Beatles. Anyway, I will review an album by them off the cuff. And what I will do is I will review it not necessarily according to what I think of the songs now, because I still probably think of the songs the same way, but when I was about 4 or 5, I used to listen to this album, and it was a really, really cool album. So I'm going to give you my late 60s impression of Revolver. And the version that I heard was the American version. So I've done with other people the English version of the album, which I've also heard. But I grew up with the American version. So that's the version that I'm going to review now, because that's what I grew up with. Taxman with that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, dun, dun, dun. That was really, really cool, you know. And the squeaky noises in the beginning, like as if someone's opening up a door to hear who's saying 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. That was really cool. And then the song itself and the fuzz guitar and everything, back in the day when I heard it on those speakers, the cheap, looks like a lunch pail kind of kid phonograph, it sounded really cool. It had a sparkly kind of a loud sound to it that I liked. I prefer the treble sound, not the bass sound so much. I like the treble. Now I can handle either, but back then I was totally into treble, and it had a treble sound that I really liked. And then Eleanor Rigby, I I respected it. I like a lot of classical music, and that at that time, it had kind of a movie quality vibe to it, like as if you could imagine it being a part of some kind of old movie. But to me, even though it was an okay song, it didn't seem like one of my favorites. It was like, it was cool because when I saw the album cover with the Beatles with their hair, the illustration that Claus Vorman did, it worked. So it worked in context with that. But as far as just being an individual song of the Beatles that I might hear on my own, that was one that I didn't hear often. That wasn't my favorite. And I still don't think it's my favorite. I think that it's for some people. But for me, even though I really like classical music, there's other composers who I really, really like and whose work is really good. And I think that the Beatles were more of a pop type of group with maybe trying to sound classical, but in a way that wasn't totally as good as their rock stuff. So for me, Eleanor Rigby, I think, could have benefited if it were more of a rock tune instead of like a chamber music piece. But that's just my take on the way it was arranged. I think that it could have been a good song. And I don't hate it, but it's not my favorite. I think that it is quite overrated. And then the next song, Love You Too, that one was really cool with the sitar in the beginning. It's like, and then it gets into this rock sound. It was totally trippy to me. I really dig that sound. I think it's like psychedelic because it's a different tonal system. It's not necessarily an American tonal system. It's an Indian tonal system, which has a different kind of tonal quality to it. And so you either like that sound or you don't. But I found for me, it really, really worked. And it was quite a good sound. And then the song, I don't know if I put Here, There, and Everywhere misplaced, because that could have been after Eleanor Rigby. I'm not going through the note. I'm not going through looking at the album. I'm going from memory. But I think Here, There, and Everywhere was the next song after Eleanor Rigby, but I'm not sure. But it was either right before or right after Love You Too. So if I don't get all of the songs in correct order, you're still going to get a review of all the songs. I liked Here, There, and Everywhere better than Eleanor Rigby. And I do think that it's a fine song. I think that it could have been a little more rocking and a little bit faster paced. I think that if I were visiting someone and they were on their electric guitar jamming on their own and doing that kind of song, then it would work. But for an album, I think it was a little tame. I mean, it's a well written song, and some of the electric guitar sound effects in the middle of it are really cool. But yeah, I do think that it could have been a little better. I like it better than Eleanor Rigby, but it's a little bit less good than it could have been. Okay, and now for Yellow Submarine. I dig it. I always liked it. When I got my first tape recorder, me and my sister did a duet of Yellow Submarine, and she sounded good. I sounded like me, which means when I heard myself back, I was horribly embarrassed. And I haven't improved much vocally since then. But still, the song was really cool. I mean, of course, I sometimes wondered why some people only listened to that song and not the rest of the Beatles catalog. I might have thought, well, they have a lot more songs than just this. So some people might react to the fact that, hey, my friend only listens to Yellow Submarine. So some people might dislike the song based on how others only like to hear that song and not more of their work. But as a song, I do like it. I think it's really cool. And I don't see any reason why it can't still be a cool song. Anyway, and then she said that was a really cool kind of psychedelic jam. And that was like, you could imagine seeing like black and white kaleidoscopic images going wow during the da na 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 na, and with the black and white cover and everything, it totally worked. Cool song. So, side 2. Good Day Sunshine. I like it. I think that it's a little bit too happy. Sometimes I think that it's a song that I do like, but I think that it kind of has a little bit of a too much of a Gene Kelly dance type of element to it. I would have liked it if it were just a tiny bit less happy. But overall, it's still a good song that I will hear. And then For No One, I do like it. I like it better than Eleanor Rigby. would have preferred to hear a little bit more drums on it. Like, I think that it was 90% of its potential instead of being 100% of its potential, but I do think it's a good song. And yeah, but it's not one of the very best songs. It's like one of the best of the second best songs. Okay. And then next would be, I think the next one is I Want to Tell You. That one was really cool. I like the guitar work. I like everything about it. It's a good rock jamming song. It's one of my favorites. And so is the next one, Got to Get You Into My Life. That one was great, especially the guitar work. That one was a really cool song. And I love the horns on it. Really good sounding thing. And then the last song, Tomorrow Never Knows. Whoa, wow. Great. Great song. It's maybe one of their best songs. Well, there's other songs by the Beatles that I like too, as well. So I can't say it's their very best song, but it's one of their very best songs. And I like everything about it. It's like you don't need to get high in order to feel high when you're listening to it. That's the kind of song it is. And on my old system, when I heard it back in the day, yeah, top-notch, good old sounding quality stuff. So that's been my review of the Beatles album Revolver. And if you want to hear it, well, there's probably lots of remastered versions and stuff. I can't advise you on which version to hear. The American or English or old vinyl or new remastered. That will be up to you. But just as long as you hear it, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. But if you do find somewhere in some thrift store some old, not beaten up American original copy of it, and you have a good record player to play it on, I'd say that would be a good bet to go for. But don't pay hundreds of dollars for it. Try to look for it in a thrift store first. And if you can't, your used record store. And if you have to pay $20 for a decent old American pressed original Capitol copy of it, fine. But these 180 gram new presses, they're based on tapes that were faded and old by that time, and so you're going to get sound that's not quite the same as if you were to get an old original, really good vinyl copy. So try to find an original. You know, I'm not really a big fan of people who buy 180 gram vinyl. I mean, you can if you want to, but if it's older music, you might as well just get a CD, because they'll be doing the good remastering job of it. Vinyl remastered from newly remastered digital sound. It sounds like you want to get a new version of cheese. So instead of getting the original cheddar cheese, you get the Kraft Singles cheese, but no, you get Kraft Singles newly original version of cheese by first turning it into Kraft cheese and then turning it back into regular cheese, as opposed to just finding a regular block of cheese. That's how I feel about it. Anyway, that's been my review of the Beatles' Revolver. Cheers, everyone.